Wednesday, November 19th here on the Just Baseball Show, and we have a loaded show for you. Red Sox pitcher Connelly Early joins the show on the back half for about 45 minutes, break down that impressive Game 3 start, and just everything that's impressive when it comes to Connelly Early. We just finished recording with him. Afterwards, Aram and I were talking about it. This guy is a pitching cyborg. I'm sure Red Sox fans especially, but all baseball fans are going to enjoy that interview. But before that, we're going to talk about this mind-boggling trade. We had to sleep on it before we actually talked about it right now, and I still don't understand it. Grayson Rodriguez is heading to the Los Angeles Angels in exchange for Taylor Ward. Also, Netflix is getting the home run derby. Welcome to the Just Baseball Show. It's all brought to us by the sportsbook born in Vegas. That is BetMGM. Remember, folks, download BetMGM, whether that be on iOS or Android, and use promo code JustBaseball. Why? First bet offer up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first wager loses. Also, for all those people in Missouri, same promo applies, but if you sign up using code JustBaseball, you will get an additional $100 in bonus bets, as BetMGM is now officially live in the state of Missouri. But remember, gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 years or older. Terms and conditions apply. Aram, do you want to start with Netflix and the home run derby, or do you want to just kind of give a little bit more thoughts on the pitching cyborg that we just talked to, the 23-year-old who's just, I'm ready for action.
Yeah, and just got better and better every level he climbed, and just jumps right into Major League Baseball by striking out 11 over 5 shutty in Sacramento where the ball flies, and then faces the Athletics again and shoves again. Like it's amazing. So I think, if you're a Red Sox fan, you got to feel not only confident in just Connelly Early, the pitcher, and his ability, but the fact that he can, handle the ups and downs that just come with being a Major League Baseball player. And I just think he's going to be such a steady starter for a long time. But as he talked about, even on air, like doing little things, adding some strength to potentially add even a little bit more velocity. Like he doesn't even need it really. He ticked up to average 94 last year. So if he adds even more velocity, you're just going to see that ceiling just continue to climb. He added a sweeper that he had more confidence in. You talk about all of those things, but deeper pitch mix, better stuff, and it might get even better. I'll bet on him, and that's why he was a top 30 overall prospect for us in the end of season update.
100%. And my biggest takeaway from the interview is this guy's built for the big moments. Coming from Army, I was even asking him because I was so interested in all of his feelings, really. Coming from college, debuting in September, first playoff start, you're just kind of ushered into the moment, pitching in Yankee Stadium in an elimination game. And his answers, you'll hear them later. I don't want to ruin it. But basically, all of his answers summarized is, this guy is built for this shit. He is not going to be astrayed by a loud crowd or anything like that.
You don't care.
And then I even look, right? If you look at his start against the Yankees, the numbers don't look great, but when you actually watched it, you know that it was an error by Ceddanne Rafaela. There was an error by Nate Lowe. Even all the hits were kind of blooped, so he didn't deserve getting ousted in the 4th inning. If, Rafaela catches that first ball, maybe we're talking about a different outcome. So if I'm a Red Sox fan, after listening to that, you're going to hear a ton of stuff about his journey. But again, my biggest takeaway was this guy doesn't feel the outside noise. And if I'm a Red Sox fan, I'd be over the moon. This guy's 23.
Yeah, he's built for it, and their young pitching is exciting and in a good spot. We talk about Tolley and a little bit of Luis Perales, and so I think Red Sox fans are going to enjoy that. Real quick, let's just knock out the derby stuff. I'm excited about it. I know Netflix has not necessarily been flexing their muscles as it pertains to production quality of sports at times. I know, like, what was it? The Jake Paul fight or whatever Paul brother fight. Like,
that was awesome. That was awesome.
It wasn't like streaming half the time. I feel like they got that one out of the way, right? Like,
yeah, they did.
But here's my thing, and I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on this. It needed to be somebody else. And ESPN's derby broadcasts the last couple of years, I just personally just didn't enjoy them very much. Well, even being able to follow the ball flight, not even just about the people that are broadcasting it. Like, I just thought the way the cameras were set up, like, it just lacked some creativity. Sometimes it was hard to really follow. Like, it's not that difficult to have two different angles that make more sense. But all that aside, it was one of many items that ESPN had in their MLB rights agreement, right? Like, because they had pretty much everything. I don't think it was that important to them. This is one of the, if not the key item that Netflix is acquiring. I know they also got the Field of Dreams game and one other thing, but I think in terms of viewership, the Derby is probably going to be the most important thing. And I don't know what the line item prices were, but I guess it was the most expensive. They're going to put a lot of effort, and I think consult a lot of people to make sure that this is unique. And this is a really special opportunity for Netflix to continue to prove and try to show people that they can make it happen in the live sports world. I think there's going to be a lot of effort going into this. And I look, maybe it's worse. Who knows? But I'm down for the chance of it being a lot better and just being different. And I think this is a good thing, at least from the Derby perspective.
I agree. I think it will be too, because, for me, this whole announcement is bittersweet. And the reason the sweet part of it is exactly what you said. I'm very interested in getting the Derby out of the hands of ESPN, and I'm sure a lot of people listening would agree. The bitter part is all of these different things are now just being sold off to these streaming services. And it happens a lot in football. It happens a lot in the NBA. I'm sure it happens in hockey. And in baseball, we bitch and moan about the blackouts. And I feel like we're totally right to do so. There is no reason that if I'm sitting in my apartment in New York City that I have to buy the YES Network instead of just watching the Yankees on MLB TV. It's actually been great to move to Chicago because instead of watching on an illegal streaming service or paying extra, I could just turn on MLB TV. So I just wish that these freaking sports leagues, and I know, wishing for it, they want to make more money. They're a business
every
at the end of the day.
Yeah, this is the funniest part. We're gonna have all of these streaming platforms. Like, we're gonna have all of these different places now to watch different games, more money for the league, and then we're still gonna have potentially a lockout where everyone's arguing about money. So,
and on that's such a good point, because on that note, Japan, like half the TVs in Japan were watching the World Series. We got all of Canada watching the World Series. Baseball continues to move global. And during these CBA negotiations, owners are going to come back and say, we actually don't have as much money as you think. I only have $7 billion. I really need a salary cap because I'm going to lose it because they're making hand over fist. They come out with, look at all these numbers. We have passed the NBA in viewership. We're becoming the best sports league in the world. But we're paying too much for the players.
Yeah,
it actually just makes me so upset. It's like the most upsetting thing about baseball. Besides,
how dumb do you think we are?
Losing in this gets me fucking out of my head.
Yeah. This one drives me nuts too. I can't lie. It's like all of these owners act like it's the worst business to ever be like they're being forced to own these teams. Like it's I'm being forced against my will to own this Major League Baseball team and just lose money. I hate it.
They won't show their revenue.
Yeah, but I'll never show you.
It's like you're so clearly on
making more money now too. I guarantee they're making more money now too, with everything trending the way it is. Splitting up all these items. It's a good thing for the sport if they can make things equal across the board here. So I'm interested in that. The other side of things, though, this trade doesn't make any sense to me. Sleeping on it didn't help, Pete. I
know. Let me just summarize what happened. So Tuesday night, we get a breaking tweet. Grayson Rodriguez has been traded to the LA Angels for outfielder Taylor Ward is going back to the Orioles. And at first, I saw it come up on our timeline from our Twitter page. And I thought to myself, oh no, who just hacked into our Twitter? Or what are we talking about? Like, I hadn't seen any other writer post it before. And then I go online and I say, and then my first instinct is, oh no, what happened to Grayson? Right? Because I think that's all of our first initial instinct. Grayson Rodriguez is under team control until 2029. And I know he hadn't pitched since July 24th of 2024. But I think we all expected that after all these surgeries, he would at least be moderately healthy for next year. He's 26 years old. He's 6'5", 230 pounds. He was your favorite pitching prospect at one point, and he was it's not like you were alone on an island. He was everybody's favorite pitching prospect. He was the Orioles' next ace. And it's not like he's even been bad. Right in 2024, before he got hurt, 3.86 ERA, 115 innings. Underlying was even better because he was one of like 6 24-year-olds to have a season where you're over 10 strikeouts per 9 and under a 4 ERA. So potentially one of the better young pitchers in the league. Getting traded to the Angels for Taylor Ward. And at first, I'm like, Taylor Ward, but then I keep remembering it's Taylor Ward. I mean, Taylor Ward hit 36 home runs last year.
Yeah.
They didn't just get a throwaway, like we're just selling off Grayson. And then today, Wednesday, November 19th, GM Perry Manassian comes out and says, this guy's going to be ready by spring training. Bullpen sessions in January. What? Is he healthy? Is he not? Because you can get in trouble. Like teams can get in trouble if they don't share all the medicals. Now, it's one thing for an organization to be like, we think he maybe can come back healthy, but because of this injury, our doctors are projecting that he's never going to, regain his own stuff versus just the straight up medicals going to the Angels where they might disagree. But it's not like they hid anything. They have to give the Angels their medicals. Yeah. So even after thinking about all these different things, going through every option, I still have no idea what the hell happened.
I don't think there's a way that you can twist this into it being a good trade for the Orioles. I don't. It's 1 year at like 11 to 13, depending on the projection. In the final year of arbitration for Taylor Ward. Fine. Yeah, it's 1 year though, and a guy that most of his OPS came from the 36 homers. Now you're going to put him in a spot where it's a little bit harder to go deep, from the right side. But that aside, you gave up 4 years of Grayson Rodriguez. And I understand, like, he may be a diminished version of himself. He has 4 years to regain that. Like, even if he was out for the entirety of next season, I still think this is a weird trade. Like, I get that the stuff is diminished. And when you look at the 2 spring training outings before he went down and then he tried to throw again and got shut down again, he was averaging about 94 miles per hour on the fastball. At his, when he was the number 1 pitching prospect, he was averaging 97.5. But he's 26 years old. We've seen so many pitching prospects have Brandon Woodruff, for example. Like, I thought no chance that guy is going to come back and throw well. And he came back and he threw well. And he's older and he went through shoulder surgeries. Like, I don't think there's anything that you could see from Grayson Rodriguez side, unless he's literally throwing 88 miles per hour in bullpens right now, that would make sense. And even then, he has 4 years to maybe figure it out. I don't get it. Because even if he's, his 2024 self or something close to it, I'll take 4 years of a high 3s ERA.
I'll take the hell out of that.
So I don't understand. The only other place my mind goes, and I don't want to just like speculate on this, is just like, did they just not want him around? We had him on the show. He was a good guy.
On the show. He was great. He was awesome.
That's why I liked him. I thought he was a great dude.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I do not get it. As you know, Mike Elias has not been removed from Fraud Watch for now a year plus. He is still on the watch list, but this is not helping either. I don't get it. And it's not like they're in a position where they've got 8,000 pitchers. This is another arm that they need.
Because how does this turn into a win for him? I guess the way that it turns into a win for Mike Elias is if Taylor Ward puts up another 30 and 100 type season. He's a 3-win player because his defense is not going to help anybody, but he can swing it. I mean, since 2021, we wrote an article on justbaseball.com breaking down the trade, which you can go check out. Since 2021, I mean, he's averaging a 118 WRC plus with 21 jacks.
Good player.
Good hitter. But you only have him for a year. And if like Taylor Ward has some big moments in big spots and the Orioles go on a playoff run and they sign other pitchers, and I guess but for them to win, and I hate to say this, Grayson has to get hurt
Yes. Yeah.
for
That's
them
the
to
only way
win this trade. So what you're betting on is you're like, that guy's never going to stay healthy. But then I just don't understand it, because then the next freaking day, the manager or the GM of the Angels, Perry Minasian, comes out and says he's throwing bullpens. He will be ready by the time of spring training. Like, who's wrong? Is Perry jumping the gun?
Well, no, I don't think so, because even like G-Rod's elbow surgery was just to remove bone chips from his right elbow. Like that. So that usually is a pretty quick recovery. And like the word was in the end of August, like, yeah, he's going to be good to go for the start of the season. I know he was dealing with, I think, like a lat issue as well, but the elbow surgery wasn't TJ, wasn't internal brace. It was just a cleanup. So unless there's something else that, we don't know about, or some other, frustration that the Orioles had, but there was nothing about that either. Like I went back and read quotes, and it was always, I know you're going to say the right things publicly, but sometimes you can read between the lines, but it was always, we're gutted for Grayson. He's working hard to get back. It has nothing to do with work ethic. Like, he's clearly doing everything in his power. We feel so bad for him. Like, that was always the rhetoric. So like with Sixto Sanchez for the Marlins, like it would have made more sense, because that guy was not doing what they were telling him to do from a rehab perspective, and then getting hurt again. Like that, then I would get it. So maybe something comes out later. I don't know, but still, I don't know if there's any scenario that makes it make sense. And, they're going to need a really productive year out of Taylor Ward. It's just, I find it funny that the guy who, in Michael Ice, the guy who never wants to part with his prospects, is willing to part with the best pitching prospect that the organization has seen in decades at his lowest value. That's the part I don't get.
I don't get it either. And can I just read you another quote? Because this one was much more recently. This was written in an MLB.com article 2 days ago. So this was released on Monday. Remember, he got traded on Tuesday. So the question was, how much can be expected out of Grayson Rodriguez next season? Elias's answer was, you miss a year and 2 months, and we've got to be realistic about that. It's not something that we're planning around very heavily. But he's a guy that provides a real wild card for us talent-wise. Very, very hopeful and optimistic with where he is. But we've just got to be respectful of the fact that this guy hasn't pitched since August of 2024, and planning around that is something that we've got to hedge against. But it would be awesome to have him show up and pitch for us the way that he's capable of, and I think there's a really good chance of that happening. Remember, this article was published November 17th. He was traded November 18th. That, and again, I'm not looking even for an answer from you, because I have none based on that quote. He's both saying at the same time, we can't really rely on him, we got to hedge against him, but also saying, we're also really, really excited to see what he can do for us this year. What the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
There's GM speak, but like, that's still like, there's that part really is what confuses me, because it's really hard to follow the logic. The other side of it is like, did you feel like this team? Like, I get it. It makes them better.
Outfielder. They needed an outfielder. Their outfield, it's like Beavers and Tyler O'Neill, your favorite guy. Colton Cowser regressed.
But that's my thing. So you are still paying Tyler O'Neill, who now you don't think is going to stay healthy. So here's your hedge against that. Also, you're hedging against Grayson Rodriguez was just removing him. Like that part is I don't that's a weird hedge. But the idea of the guy that you're paying and Tyler O'Neill, now what? Is he a platoon bat for them? Is that what he is now?
Maybe it's...
Are they waving the white flag already on the Tyler O'Neill deal and saying 1 year into a 3-year, $55 million deal or $50 million deal? Wow, we had no idea it was going to go this way. We're out on this thing. Like, you had to know that this first year was a possibility, but now you also know that 2024 is a possibility as well. So you got to give him the chance to do that, because when he's on the field, Tyler O'Neill can be a multi-win player and really good and be the player that you paid for. But now 1 year in, where he's hurt, as you expected to be a huge risk when you signed him, you're going to relegate him and maybe not give him the full-fledged opportunity to do it again. That's the part that is weird to me. I don't know if I can follow the Orioles logic too much here.
And we stuck on the Orioles side because I think their logic is so much more fascinating than the Angels. Because if I'm an Angels fan right now, I'm thinking to myself, oh, I'm thrilled. We just got Grayson Rodriguez. Yes, it's kind of it's a mystery bag of what we're going to get. But over 1 year of Taylor Ward, I will happily jump into that bag when I know that I have 4 years of team control. And now the Orioles and the Angels, they've made a trade similar like this before. If we remember back in 2019, Dylan Bundy was one of the Orioles' top pitching prospects. And now he was much different than Grayson because Bundy had like 3 seasons with Baltimore where he was throwing like 150 plus innings and he just wasn't that good. But the Orioles sent away one of their quote unquote former top pitching prospects to the Angels. 3 years later, he's out of the league.
Yeah.
And what did they get in return? 3 prospects and another one by the name of Kyle Bradish. So a move, and again, that's not even a great comparison, but I'm just thinking about former moves that they've done with each other. If I'm an Angels fan, I'm just like, yeah, I don't know what the Orioles were thinking, but hell, we'll take it.
Well, that's the funny thing, because like if the Orioles are so capped on the upside of this deal because it's 1 year of Taylor Ward. Yes. So like if like Taylor Ward has
year.
Grayson Rodriguez is going to give you, if he gives you 4 okay pitching seasons, he's going to give you a lot more WAR than I think 1 year of Taylor Ward. But I also don't. That's the part that's interesting to me is, I appreciate 2 teams here. The Angels never wanted to trade Taylor Ward for a prospect. That was clear. They would have done it, a while ago. So this was one of the rare occasions where they could help their big league team now get a player with years of control, and that's why they moved Ward. They're probably happy keeping him if it was going to be for prospects. So this is probably the only way that the Orioles could have got Taylor Ward. But I don't know if it makes much sense for them, because to me, when you're only getting 1 year of a guy and you're hoping that he replicates what he did last year, like that's the best case scenario, is he replicates what you got last year. And to me, the only way that value matches up is if Grayson Rodriguez is atrocious and unavailable for the next 4 years. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense, because again, it's 4 years. So from an Angels perspective, I think you're thrilled, because now you look at the rotation, you say Kikuchi, solid. Soriano, solid. Detmers is a great bounce back candidate after what he did last year. But then from there, it's like, okay, well, is it Caden Dana? Like, what are we going to do here? Now you have another iron in the fire that is really, at worst, is going to give you just, I think, some solid innings, if healthy, where he's in the high 3s, low 4s, which they just need that too. Like, they just need someone that's not Jack Kohanowitz, no offense. So I love it for the Angels, and it also clears up some money for them to now go and potentially go sign some free agents and just go fill that corner outfield spot.
Kikuchi, Soriano, and G-Rod. Like, I feel good going in with that top 3. My last thing on this trade that also confuses me, was this the only team that would take G-Rod? And if it wasn't, were other teams offering worse packages? Yeah, that's another thing. It's like, was he being shopped around? And if he wasn't, and you just really, really wanted Taylor Ward, I would have loved to be on a fly on the wall for those conversations in Elias's office, where him and his team decide, all right, we are interested in trading Grayson Rodriguez. Did Perry Minasian call the Orioles? And that's how it started? Like, how and this is sometimes with these Angels trades. Sometimes they're bad, sometimes they're pretty good. I just like, how did they begin?
Yeah. I wonder if it was like Orioles calling and saying, what do you want for Taylor Ward? We'll offer you these prospects or whatever. And then maybe the conversation just evolved into, well, what about Grayson? But
then even if it does get to Grayson, like, you don't have the feeling where, all right, if
Let's
Grayson,
see what he's worth.
if I actually am okay with trading Grayson, shouldn't I shop him then?
Yes.
And see if I can get the best deal? Because
it's 4 years of think about what controllable starting pitching goes for. Like, look at,
huge.
we were talking about look at the injury history of Edward Cabrera, but what he did last year and like the potential returns that he could bring in and what we were talking about there. Like, I feel like with Grayson, a lot of teams would be giving up some decent pieces to have the opportunity to try to get him right. Over if it was a year and a half, 2 years, I get it. Like you could get hurt and wipe out all the control that you got. He could get Tommy John tomorrow, and you would still have 3 years of him, or at least 2.5 of him being healthy. So I think a lot of teams would have been lining up for the opportunity to buy low on a 26-year-old, just turned 26 3 days ago, year old Grayson Rodriguez, and see if he can bounce back.
And I'm sure even there's a part of Orioles fans that think this, where they hope the Angels win this trade. And what I mean by that is, if the Angels won this trade, that means Grayson Rodriguez stayed healthy.
Yeah.
Who wants him to get hurt?
I mean, I hope Ward hits 40 homers and G-Rod shoves, but like, I think.
But if Ward hits 40 and G-Rod shoves, you'd way rather have G-Rod. I don't care if 40 home runs in 1 year.
And I don't even think you can, like, G-Rod maybe gets hurt and it doesn't go well. You're going to say, oh, I told you so. I had a crystal ball. Like, no one knows how it's going to go injury-wise. That's why I can't buy into it. Because even if you said, oh, he's got all these arm issues, and our doctors are concerned he'll never fully be right. I struggle to believe that any doctor would definitively be like, oh, this guy's cooked. Like, it's just way too early. So they may say the odds are stacked against him. Like, there may be some re-injury risk, whatever. It's case with so many arms that carry a lot of value, and just every arm in general. So that's why I don't think I'll ever really understand it. And it's going to be really fun to see how this just continues to play out. And I'd love to see Grayson, figure it all out in Los Angeles.
That would be awesome. If I'm an Orioles fan, I'm staring down the barrel at your GM, Mike Elias. What are you going to do? Yep. This is the first move of the offseason. Does that mean you're going to go sign Ranger Suarez? Does that mean you're going to go trade for Joe Ryan? You're going to call up the Nationals to go get Mackenzie Gore? What are you going to do? Because right now in the rotation, it's Bradish, it's Trevor Rogers. Some questions. You got a lot of work to do because you cannot waste this young core on offense. And I get it. You added Taylor Ward. And again, this is why it's confusing, because if they got nothing for Grayson, I'd be like, oh man, this is tough. Grayson's arm is clearly not right. But since it's like not a bad piece, it being Taylor Ward made the trade crazy, because it's not a huge package for Grayson. That makes sense. It's not a nothing package for Grayson. Oh, that stinks. That means his arm is done. It's just a good enough return where it's so confusing. So, Elias, the rest of your moves cannot be this confusing. That's all we ask.
Yeah, it's do or die for Elias this year, I think. And clearly prioritize getting a bat on a 1 year where they wouldn't have to commit multi-years like they did to Tyler O'Neill. But I think this is a do or die season for him, so I'm really interested to see how it shakes out. And they've got a lot of work to do even after this deal. I think it even carved out potentially even more work to do.
Incredible. So before we move on to our interview with Red Sox pitcher Connelly Early, again, the best way to support the Just Baseball show, if you're listening to this on audio, is to rate 5 stars, whether it be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your pods. And if you would be so kind as to leave a written review as well. Make sure in the off season, our Discord is humming. It is so much fun. It is the rumor mill hub for all 800 of us in there. So many baseball fans. If you want to join, you can find the link in the episode description. And also, it's getting a little bit chilly out there. You want to go get yourself a Just Baseball hoodie? That's what I'm rocking. Go get yours you can find the link again in the episode description. And without further ado, let's listen to Red Sox pitcher Connelly Early.
And here's Red Sox left-hander Connelly Early. Connelly, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. It was an incredible year that you had this year, and I appreciate you carving out a little bit of time during the offseason.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me.
How's it been treating you so far? I mean, we just talked about it before we hit record. This was the most you've ever thrown in your life, but also I would say the highest intensity. I know it's all relative, but you threw in a freaking playoff game this year. Like, how do you kind of decompress after a year that I imagine you probably weren't expecting in the best way possible?
Yeah, wasn't expecting it at all, really. So just been hanging out with family a bunch. Took off a throwing for a little bit and just getting after it in the weight room and just trying to get a little bit better every single day going into spring training.
And what does it look like to get after in the weight room for you? Because when you were in high school, you were sitting in 84 to 86 miles an hour, even at your first year at Army. And then at the end of Virginia, you're sitting in the mid 90s. So when I hear you're in the weight room, you're in the weight room. What is that? How do you get to that mid 80s to the mid 90s in such a short period of time?
Yeah, I think I was just a late bloomer in general. So me and all my brothers definitely didn't grow until later on in high school. And then just figuring out how to move my body most efficiently and getting after it with all the strength coaches and trainers that I've had along the way has been huge for sure.
I felt like there was this momentum, though, kind of carrying from the end of the 2024 season and then kind of carrying into the 2025 season. I got to watch you throw in the spring breakout game, and I know that was just a short little snippet there, but I'm like, man, this guy looks good. He's throwing hard. And I was looking at the back end of 2024. I believe that's where you saw the velo even tick up a little bit further. And just the command, kind of everything came along. Was there a point, that you really saw things click? 'Cause we're going to go back and talk about your college path as well. But in terms of clicking to the degree that this is a guy that can help the Red Sox make, a playoff push, when did you feel like things really started to kick into another gear for you?
Yeah, I would say kind of two different spots. So I would say one big kick was transferring from when I went from Army to UVA. Was able to put on some weight in the summer after I ended up transferring, and then took some leaps and jumps just in the baseball world, and was able to devote a little bit more time to baseball and not worry too much about all the military stuff going on. And then I would say first full season in pro ball for sure. I remember right after I got drafted, I built back up to throw and then ended up throwing a couple innings in Salem. And the velo was around like 91-ish on average. And then once I, got in the weight room and was able to talk to a bunch of coaches, trainers, everything over that first fall that I was down there for OTP, and then going into spring training, just really able to build on, just the mental side of things and being able to figure out what's best for me, keeping certain routines and being able to, go out there and push the intensity for sure.
Was there a moment where you felt like I'm here? Or was it a gradual process where you just kind of kept going over pillar and getting to that new goal and that new goal? Or was there a specific moment, maybe in college or maybe as the youngest Red Sox pitcher to start a playoff game since 1916 when Babe Ruth did it? Was there that moment where you felt I've arrived?
I feel like it kind of just happened over time for sure. But I would say one big moment was after the fall at UVA. A lot of guys were sitting down with pro teams, and I ended up sitting down with some area scouts, just talking with them, and they were trying to, figure out background stuff about me, figure out how I like to pitch and everything along those lines. And kind of when I had a couple of those meetings, it really just hit me like this is a chance. You really have a chance. And went out in January and struggled a decent amount against the UVA lineup. Just constantly throwing, getting ready for preseason stuff. And then once the season hit, midweek starter. So took a little decrease. Thought I was going to be on the weekends. And Coach O'Connor and Coach Dickinson did a great job with me, just, being able to build my confidence through those midweek starts. And later on, it just kind of took off after that.
There was that specific, and I'm kind of looking at the numbers now. So a little bit more of an uptick in 2025, I'd imagine, and also just a more detailed arsenal. I know even since you've joined the Red Sox organization, there's been some, I think adjustments in, people at the top, some of the philosophies, and I think obviously a big focus on pitching development. Have you felt that in the last year or so where maybe there's just more information at your disposal and you feel like you're in a really good spot. And I think it's not just you, right? You look at Peyton Tolley, you look at some of the other arms throughout this Red Sox system that have progressed really nicely over the last year. Do you feel it throughout, and does everybody else kind of feel it throughout the organization that there's a pitching philosophy from like top bottom that's kind of transcending into what you guys are doing?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like with the Red Sox pitching development, there's just a bunch of use of technology and bullpens and everything along those lines, just looking into pitch shapes, looking into how you're moving down the mound, using edgetronics to see how the ball's coming out of your hand, all of that type of stuff. So I didn't do too much of that during college. College was really, for me, just going out there and trying to compete and win every single game. Obviously worked on pitches and trying to fill it up in the zone for sure. But Coach O'Connor always preached, go out there and attack, compete in the zone. And I feel like that helped me from a mental side for sure. And then once I got into pro ball, I was able to, dive a little bit more into pitch shapes and trying to figure out how to move a little bit better down the mound. And that was just a focus every single day in the weight room, in the training room, and also every time I was on the mound.
And how do you manage all of this information? Because I'm sure it can be a little shocking, right? You're at UVA. You were just talking about how you just go out there every day and you try to compete versus now with a Red Sox organization where you just said a bunch of different technologies that I've never even heard of, like edgetronics. Like, just thinking about all these different things, how are you able to manage? Are you one of those pitchers where you're like, sometimes it's a little bit too much and I just need to trust my stuff and go out there? Or are you someone who really dives into the scouting reports and all of this type of stuff and almost more information is better? How do you manage that?
I would say the biggest thing is obviously when you go out there and pitch, you're trying to compete every single time. So you're not worried about, pitch shapes when you're out there. You're not worried about the end zone percentage of this certain pitch or, how the ball is coming out of my hand too much. When you're out on the mound, you're just trying to get hitters out, find a way, anyway, whatever it takes, go and do that. But obviously when you have, midweek bullpens where you're able to devote a little bit more time to, trying to chase after a shape or something. And obviously it's not going to be perfect. The first time you try something, it takes a long time. I wasn't able to develop my sweeper for a really long time. It took me, bullpen after bullpen after bullpen trying to figure it out. And same with my sinker. So honestly, just, taking those times and bullpens and then a little bit at the end of catch play and devoting that time to using all the technology, but still being able to rely on feel and going out there and competing every time.
Real quick, he was talking about figuring out the sweeper. You know who else couldn't figure out a sweeper? Ben Rice. And I say that as I got the Yankees in the background, but I was just so impressed with that outing. I can't wait to talk about it later. But I had to mention that because I was rewatching the game again. He's missing these sweepers by like a foot, Arm. He's not even in the same ballpark.
Well, and it was a newer pitch, and I was actually excited to dig into that with you too. But I want to start before we even get to the individual pitches and how you've even diversified your arsenal even further. I'm also just fascinated by the idea of throwing more strikes than ever at the big league level. Like you'd think it would almost be the other way around, right? Where maybe you're like, oh my gosh, that's Aaron Judge there. Maybe I need to nibble a little bit more. The zone's also tighter. The hitters are more disciplined, all these different things. But, in your 5 big league starts, you don't really walk anybody. What was it for you? I think it was a 5% walk rate in your 5 big league starts, including the postseason outing. Like, what was it for you that clicked at the big league level to just be able to lock in on a command in the command department even further?
I feel like throughout the whole entire season, that was kind of my main focus, is just being able to be in zone as much as possible with all my pitches. When I started off in the season, I was getting a bunch of swing and miss, but my end zone percentage was way down, and that was like a big thing that was honestly flagged by people who were up in the pitching department with the org. So, after about a month of this past season, I sat down for my player plan development meeting, and they kind of went over like, hey, you got to be in the zone more if you want to be able to compete at a higher level. And that kind of stuck with me. And I feel like getting to AAA and having to get used to, the zone that they use there, and people have challenges all the time. Once you get used to that, and able to, put your pitches in the zone and just really attack hitters, it helps out a ton. And try to take that mentality into the game every time I went out there, and feel like Narvi or Wong behind the dish. I mean, those guys are very competitive, ultra competitive guys. And they trust in you. You got to trust in them. So I feel like it's pretty easy to go out there and attack when you got those guys behind the dish.
Can you build on some specific tweaks that you might have made to be in more in the zone? Because I think to myself, when you have that meeting, it's a lot easier said than done to say, hey, Connelly, you got to be in the zone more. And you're like, okay, I'll just be in the zone more, right? It's not that black and white. So were there any things maybe in your mechanics, the way you gripped a baseball? You talked about a few specific catchers that helped you. Was there anything like super specific? I'm just super interested to see how that developed.
Yeah, I feel like at the start of the season, I was just velo chasing. So I was trying to produce a high velo every time. Anytime I gripped a fastball, I was trying to rip it as hard as I could. Wasn't really too focused on where it was going. So once I kind of settled down on that and was trying to pinpoint my pitches a little bit more, the velocity, is still there, and body's moving, pretty well. And I'm not tensing up when I'm throwing as much. So I think that helps out a ton. And then also in those midweek bullpens, having like a competitive aspect to it, trying to get like 2 or 3 strikes when you're doing it, using strings, and just like using the TrackMan zone to, pretty much grade your pin every single time. Look at each pitch and be like, nope, ball 1. Like, now you got to get back in the zone, get to 1-1, get to 1-1, and just keep going from there.
The big league debut was one of the more fun pitching performances I think I got to watch all year, just because of the way that you were sequencing. And I know, I'm sure you're going to give credit to, the catcher on that side of it as well, because it just felt like you guys were just in a rhythm there. But the other side of it is, okay, you're going to Sacramento where the ball is flying. Like it's not a fun place to pitch, period, let alone make your big league debut, because of course, really the ball carries like crazy, but also those guys rake over there, and you were dotting, but it wasn't just the way that you were dotting. I even put a whole thread together on it. So just to prove that I'm not just saying this because you're on the show, like I had a blast just going through the sequences that you were going through there, where the fastball was just establishing east-west, and then you were able to kind of work off of that with whatever you wanted. Also, the way the 2 breaking balls were working off of each other. I know you had some really good starts this year at the big league level and AAA, AA. Was that the most dialed in you felt in a while? And just, can you talk about how you took a moment where you probably should be feeling so much adrenaline, and it was like a pitchability masterclass?
Yeah, I would say I thought that the adrenaline helped me a ton. So I like being in those like amped up moments for sure. I feel like that's just the competitive aspect to the game that, brings out a different version of, all these guys when they go out there and compete, and the fans are into it. The game's, something special. It makes you play better for sure. But yeah, I mean, I felt really locked in for that outing. Obviously MLB debut, so the nerves were there, but I feel like it was more excitement than anything. And just being able to, get to work with Narvi before the game, go over the arsenal. And I mean, he knew what pitches to throw before I even showed up. So when we went into that meeting, it was like he had caught me 10 times already.
Had you ever really sequenced your pitches like that in the past? Like the way that you were setting up the breaking balls is the part that just continues to stand out to me, because you got that slider at like 85, and then you'd have the curveball at like 80, 81, kind of starting at the same point and just dotting down after that. And I think it was Rooker you got, and a couple other guys you got just on that sequence alone. Like, were there some things that maybe you realized in that outing, like, oh wow, this pitch works off of this pitch better than I thought? Or did you find some things through that first big league outing, and how much confidence did that then give you through the subsequent outings?
Yeah, I feel like I've always been trying to sequence as best as I can against hitters. And I feel like in AAA, I kind of took a big leap there, just being able to dive into, each person in the lineup that I was facing that day, getting into that with my pitching coaches and catcher, and kind of looking at, hey, this guy might not hit this pitch great in these sorts of counts. Like if I'm ahead in the count, then I can go to these weapons. If I'm behind in the count, I might be able to spin this in there to get back to even and then go to work from there. So once I was able to do that, took that into, all my big league outings, and it just made me feel a little bit more confident out there. And depending on, where the pitch ended up, then, me and Narvi try to get on the same page every single time. Obviously I'm shaking maybe a very, very few amount of times during the game, just because he sees way more than I see, and he knows how the game's going. So trust him every single time. And then, just trying to make the pitches.
And with that trust in your catcher, when Narvi's calling it like that, and you feel like you can land any pitch where you want, sequence it how you want, is there an element of getting lost in the game a little bit? Because it's one thing to be in a flow state when you're pitching well, and it's another thing to be in the flow state when it's your first big league start. Like, I can't even fathom all the things that might be going through your head, or if it's just blank and you're just firing in, especially when you trust your catcher to call a game like that.
Yeah, I would say it's more blank than anything. Honestly, it's kind of like you're blacking out on the mound and just going out there. And obviously, you know what you've gone over in the meeting before that, and that's kind of all you're trying to think about. No matter what happens, if it's a ball, if it's a hit, whatever happens, like you got to execute that next pitch. And the time when I got up there, we need to win every single game. So everybody was super energetic for each of those games. Kind of came down to the wire there, trying to make a playoff push. So just going out there and trying to put up the best outing I could for the team.
Some of my buddies that, after they make their big league debut, I think that the next moment that generally I've heard just most consistently is, oh man, that first time I got to play at Fenway Park, like that was different as well. Or, that's the one where I'll get a text and be like, oh wow, this hit different. When it's your home ballpark, I can't even imagine how that hits. And especially when you make your debut on the road. It's also funny that you had to face the same, again, very good offense again. And it's not like you're going home to, Comerica Park. It's also another place where, you can get clipped a little bit and you shove again against the Athletics. So I'm going to ask about, facing the same lineup twice. That'll be the second part of the question, but I'll throw you the softball first, which is just, how cool was it? Like, it almost had to feel like a second MLB debut, right? Where you have your nerves from just big league debut, but then your first start at home, it hits a little bit different, I think, when you're a Boston Red Sox.
For sure. I remember before that game, I was doing my pregame bullpen, and I was trying to, settle myself down a little bit, like not trying to get after it too much in the bullpen, because you have that second deck that feels like it's right there on top of you when you're playing. So I was like, I'm going to be feeling the energy the whole entire game. I don't need to get after it too much down here and waste too much. So I remember trying to settle my nerves then and getting into the dugout, taking some deep breaths, and then just going out there and trying to enjoy the moment as much as possible.
With the fact that you had to face the same lineup twice too, is what I'm fascinated by, where it's like, okay, you showed them a little bit of everything last time out because you went deep into the ball game. You're not going to have that element of surprise. And I know they probably were ready and knew that, hey, we're seeing a pretty good arm the first time they saw you, because you were coming off of 6 innings of 10 Ks, 1 run in your final AAA start. But, it's a kid in his big league debut versus a lineup that was probably feeling themselves a little bit at that point in the season. They have a little bit more time to game plan. And they're probably saying, okay, we're not going to let this guy get us twice. Not in his first 2 big league starts. And you get him again. You go 5 innings, 5 1/3, 1 run, no walk, 7 Ks. So through your first 2 big league starts, it's 10 1/3, 1 run, 1 walk, 18 strikeouts against the same good lineup twice. What was the preparation like? Because you mentioned you had some different nerves as well. It wasn't like you could settle in and say, okay, well, I got the first one out of the way. No, you've got other nerves now as your first home start, but also in the game preparation. Like, did you say, let me just go do the same thing again? Or was there a level of, well, I don't want to give them maybe the same looks that they got last time, although they were never really comfortable, so it may not have mattered.
Yeah, I feel like I already, studied the lineup for the first time that I played them. So it was nice to already have that, in my mind. And I didn't have to take my mind off of it like going into another team and trying to look at those hitters. So it just stayed in the forefront of my mind on, how I want to attack those guys. And then Narvi called a really good game that game, used a sinker way more than I've ever used versus right-handed hitters. So I think that was something that kind of caught them off guard and was able to get some weak contact, get some takes, and that really helped me out in that outing for sure.
Before we talk about your playoff start, I want to ask you just about making the playoffs in general, because obviously it was your first time in the playoffs as a rookie, but the Red Sox as an organization have been there before. But for a lot of players on the team, it was, their first postseason experience. Even a veteran like Trevor Story, he hadn't been to the playoffs since 2018. So after getting a taste of it and the season ending, what are those conversations like in the dugout afterwards, or when you're together with the team, like feeling that taste for your first time? And then how does that fuel the hunger going into next year, saying we can do this again and we got to go farther?
Yeah, I feel like, getting caught up at the time that I did, being able to experience all that was amazing. And it almost seems like, that's what we need to do every single year is be able to be in the playoffs and give ourselves a shot. And we can do that. I feel like, you see guys like Bregman and Story and all those guys, and how much it fired them up to be in the playoffs and how amazing it was just to be along their side, for that last little run for sure. It's just insane. And I mean, for Bregman to be in the playoffs every single year is crazy. Obviously he came over, from a team who had been in the playoffs every single year, and, he flips the script and comes over to us, and we're able to, go to the playoffs for the first time in a couple of years is crazy. So definitely a really good experience.
One more quick follow-up to that one too, because you mentioned Bregman and you mentioned Story have been there, but the guy at the top of the rotation, Garrett Crochet, the big oink, which I think is, as a Yankee fan, I'm jealous because that's like the coolest nickname that I've ever heard. But Garrett Crochet had the second best season in the American League. I mean, he finished second in American League Cy Young voting, but this is his first playoff start. But at the same time, you got to be the ace of the team. I know you were called up late, so you didn't spend the entire season with him, but how was September being in the same rotation as a guy like that, and then seeing how he works when it comes to October, because it's his first time too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, being in the same rotation as him is insane, honestly. I remember, I feel like the one big moment where I was like, dude, this guy's insane, was when we were in Toronto towards the end of the season. We got to win these games, and he goes out there, throws, I think, 8 innings of either 0 or 1 run ball. And I looked at Kyle Harrison sitting on the bench, and I was like, dude, what can this guy not do? Like, why is nobody hitting him? Like, he's not giving up any hits. These are the quickest innings. It looks like he's not even trying out there. He's just going out there, throwing his pitches, coming into the dugout, and just doing it over and over and over again. Is insane to watch. And obviously going into that first start in the postseason against the Yankees, all the pressure's on him, and he just feeds off that and goes out there and shoves again. So it's great to see, what he does every single day, and talk to him about, how he's trying to pitch certain guys, just because it's another left-handed perspective for sure. Obviously might be a little bit biased, but think he should have won the Cy Young. But yeah, I mean, great guy and great player as well.
And is he a lead by example type of leader, or is he a talker? Like he'll come back in the dugout and say, I saw this, 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 and this, or is it more of a quiet demeanor, like Garrett Crochet as the leader? Who is that?
I would say he's like calm, collected, goes out there and shows what he can do, so everybody else builds confidence off that. Obviously there's side conversations throughout games while I'm standing next to him, or somebody standing next to him, and they're talking gameplay stuff, or how he thinks somebody could attack somebody a little bit better, something along those lines. But he's not going to go out there and like make a huge voice for himself or anything like that. He's just going to go out there, do his thing, go about his business, and be Garrett Crochet.
I want to talk about that sweeper a little bit more, because that was just another wrinkle for you, especially to be able to just get lefties, because the changeup has always been, I feel like, your bread and butter, right? And then the fastball it continues to improve quality-wise, and now you've got those two pitchers. But then we talked about the other two breaking balls. But then to add this sweeper left on left specifically, and just what that can do to lefties, is just another impossible wrinkle, I feel like, for hitters to be able to game plan for, because there's this deep assortment of pitches. And then you mentioned the sinker as well. But you said that the sweeper was difficult for you to kind of find the feel for, right? And it took some time. But as the information that I have here from the season, you landed it for a strike 72% of the time. So how'd you go from, okay, this is a pitch I'm learning and trying to find a feel for, to this is a pitch that I have the utmost confidence in now in the game setting?
Yeah, I feel like I've been working on it from my first full season, about 3/4 of the way through the season, started using it a little bit more. And then every once in a while in a game, I would try and break it out against a lefty. And sometimes it would just kind of run into the curveball shape or run into the gyro slider shape, and couldn't get it too consistent. And then started working on it a lot during spring training for this past year. Took it in the game, was using it a decent amount against lefties, nothing crazy though. Was able to get decent outcomes on it, decent results. Got called up to AAA, ball changes a little bit. Kind of went all over the place again. Didn't really know what I was trying to do with the pitch. Trying to keep the same feel that I had with the pitch, and it was still spraying just on like movement plots and everything like that. And then finally was able to hone it in just in bullpens that I was working on constantly. Just being able to throw a couple and get the feel off the fingers and just get the thought process right behind it. And then, once it comes to game time, you just got to let the grip do the work, picking out a spot to start it at and see where it ends up.
Sorry, real quick, Peter, I wanted to follow up on the baseball, because so when I'm evaluating prospects and looking at the stuff and looking at the plots, one of the most frustrating things is like, you look at a guy that's throwing in AA, and it's like, I don't know what it's going to look like in AAA. And then you also see, the stuff look a little bit different once they get to AAA, but also you can work around that sometimes and find ways to compensate for that. But some guys really struggle for that. Also, others struggle to kind of find the same grip and with certain offerings. Like, for the audience that may not be totally familiar, like, how difficult is it to make that leap up to AAA as a pitcher with the different baseball? And then even from AAA to the majors, there's some slight differences with the baseball as well, right? So like, that's a variable that I don't totally understand. Like, I think it's a little bit silly, but I think it just creates another big challenge for pitchers. And what was that like for you? And how do you prepare for something like that?
Yeah, honestly, they just let me go out for my first couple outings in AAA and just attack with the grips that I was throwing. And then, in the after action reports, when I'm talking with the pitching coaches, Dan and Junis, like, we just go over, maybe if I'm able to kick it into this orientation, it would spin better and produce the right shape that I'm looking for. So maybe like a minor tweak and pressure on a certain finger, or maybe trying to make a spike a little bit more, something along those lines, was kind of like what I would tinker around with during catch play, and then obviously use it in a bullpen, and then try and use it in the game. Obviously trying to stay as comfortable as I can with the grip without making it too big of a change, because then you kind of got to learn how to release it again. But worked a ton with Chris Murphy. Tough to lose him, but worked a ton with Chris Murphy. Called him my spin doctor for a while in AAA. So he was able to, hone in the curveball and a sweeper for me a little bit.
How different is the ball, and what are the biggest differences, would you say?
I don't know how to describe it too well. The leather feels a lot better on the MLB ball than the minor league ball, and I think the laces are a little bit tighter. So I think you're able to get away with a little bit more when you're using the minor league ball and achieve a shape that you can't really get if you're not spinning the ball completely efficiently with the MLB ball.
But I think it's fair to say that you like the MLB ball better, because talk about transitioning from AAA to the big leagues, throwing 5 innings of shutout baseball with 11 strikeouts. I really want to get to, obviously, your big time Game 3 start, but I want to start before that. So in your presser before that Game 3 start, A reporter asked you if you could have ever imagined starting the year at Fort Myers and then getting the ball in a winner go home game. And you said very short, and I thought you gave a perfect answer for the time. No, but I'm in that position now, and I got to go out there and trust my stuff. Now, looking back on that experience, can you expand on the no?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, going into spring training, I was in minor league spring training the whole entire time. Obviously, got to throw against a couple big league guys who were trying to get some more reps just from live ABs and stuff like that before going to play in their games. But yeah, it wasn't with the big league group at all. I had one day where I played catch with them on like a Monday off day that the minor leagues had, and I needed to go throw that day because I had a live outing the next day. So, I mean, was in Double-A for a good amount of time and working on a bunch of stuff, and knew that I hadn't been in the zone too well to start off the season. So knew that I had a long way to go, and was able to just chip away with that. And I mean, I didn't even expect to be up in the big leagues, even after getting called up to Triple-A. I thought that I was, gonna finish the season in Triple-A after I got called up there. So, yeah, just a complete shock, honestly.
And I imagine going into enemy territory there, it feels like it. We always joke on the show that we felt like that. At least I'll speak for myself here, but I felt like the Red Sox-Yankees rivalry had been forced on us by ESPN on Sunday Night Baseball a lot for the last few years. I'll be honest with you, and I was getting a little sick of it. But that series, and also I just felt like the way the season went in a lot of ways, it felt like it kind of got rekindled a little bit. And then anytime the Red Sox and the Yankees meet, in a short postseason series there, you really get some extra, I think, just passion from the fans. And you had to go into enemy territory there and make that start. I imagine after making that start, you're probably tuning most of it out, but you're having everything shouted at you. It's super loud. It's super intense. You know the history of the rivalry. Like, all those things aren't lost on you, but it's also just a playoff game that you want to win really badly. Does it feel like almost any start from that point is going to be a little bit less stressful from like an outside variable standpoint now?
I mean, every outing, you go out there and you're trying to compete every single time. Obviously, going into the Yankees ballpark, you hear a little bit more from the other fans. I remember, especially when you're in the bullpen, like I feel like you can really feel them when you're in the bullpen. They do a good job of that for sure. But I remember somebody said a funny chirp. I thought it was pretty good. I don't remember exactly what it was, and I kind of like smirked at it. And I remember somebody like clowning me for laughing about it and everything along those lines. So, yeah, once I got to that point, I was like, all right, dude, I got to lock in. Got to go out there and compete for the team. But I feel like, being out there on the mound, it's so damn loud in that stadium that you can't pick apart one single thing that somebody's saying. So it's just like loud white noise, honestly. Other than when Judge comes up, you get the MVP chant every single time. So you hear that pretty well.
Can we compare your mindset versus stepping on that mound, hearing 50,000 fans scream at you? You haven't gotten it out yet, versus the feeling when you strike out Trent Grisham to get that first out, and then you go get Judge and Belly right after that. Like, is there a complete switch of emotions there? When does that switch happen? Is there a switch at all? Does it happen after the end of the inning? I just feel like there had to be so many feelings wrapped up in just that first inning of work.
Yeah, I mean, obviously going out there, you never know how the game's going to go, but you're going out there trusting yourself every single time. And you know that you're going to hear it from the Yankees more than when you play somebody else. So going out there and just being able to, execute my pitches the first AB was huge. Thought I did a really good job. Was able to execute the pitches, and then a little sigh of relief after the first out. And once I got that, it's like, all right, time, like, just keep chugging along, just keep going to work, try and get one guy out at a time, and make one pitch at a time. So, yeah, I mean, after that first inning, felt comfortable, just dealing with the crowd and everything. Heart rate was pretty high early on in the game, but was able to settle it down a little bit.
in addition to that outing, but just the season in general, right? Like, it is still only a handful of big league outings, but I'm sure there's so much to be taken from each one, especially getting the playoff opportunity. But I'm sure there was things that you learned, from AA to AAA and so on. Having this year that you had, and it being as successful as humanly possible, how do you take that now and say, all right, I'm going to build on this to new heights next year? What's the thought process there? Is it more about just let me maintain this because I know this is going to play, or how do I take the next step forward from these heights that I didn't even really expect this time last year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously very proud of myself for being able to do what I did this season. Never means that I'm done. Always trying to chase a better version of myself. And I know a lot of things that I can improve on, and I can do a lot better job executing certain pitches and certain counts for sure. Just had a meeting with Bailey and some of the other pitching guys just to go over offseason goals and kind of things just to keep in mind when we get into spring training on how we want to attack right-handed guys, how we want to attack left-handed guys, if there might be a grip adjustment to a certain pitch or something along those lines. So just able to go over that now, kind of keep it in the back of the head, and being able to compartmentalize all that stuff and then just go into spring training ready to work and keep improving from a physical side, I think is really big for me. So hopefully, I've been able to put on a little bit of weight, and that should hopefully help the velo tick up, help all the off speed tick up in velo. And if that happens, you're just trying to get better every single day.
Well, I don't think the Yankees will be able to handle you if the velo goes that much higher. So, be careful for us. No, I'm just kidding. Another young player that is on a similar developmental track as you is Peyton Tolley, another guy who, Red Sox fans got to know well. What's the relationship like with him? Are you guys talking all the time in the off season? Obviously, you come up at a similar time. You're two of the better young players on the Red Sox. Like, what's this journey been like going with him?
Yeah, it's been great. So he had his first off season down in Fort Myers when I was down there for my second off season. So got to know him then. So we've been pretty close since then. And then obviously overlapped a good amount of spots. Started in high A, but was quick up to double A. So saw him a bunch in double A, saw him in triple A. And then he shot up there before me, and was able to watch his whole entire outing, text him after it, just congratulating him. And then obviously once we got up there, we're the two youngest guys. So we would hang out, go to breakfast a lot, just do things in the off time together when we weren't at the field. So obviously having that along my side is always nice. And over the off season, we've texted about certain things, trying to set up some things to just go hang out and do certain things. Obviously he's out in Oklahoma getting after it, training every single day, and trying to come out just as good, if not better, next year. So, I feel like we have a competitive aspect together, just pushing each other and trying to make each other better for sure.
Love that.
I mean, that's got to be one of the better fastballs you've seen, I imagine, right? As a teammate.
Yeah, I've played catch play with him a couple of times. That's not a fun catch play partner with the heater. Yeah, it jumps on you. So that one's a little difficult.
That's one where you're always just nervous. It's gonna just jump right over that glove and catch you a little bit. Like you don't want to wear it.
Yeah, I had a couple times when we got to the end of catch play. I was kind of on a lighter day just because I was going through my routine as a starter. He had been in the bullpen at that moment. He's trying to let a couple eat, so I'd have somebody else step in and catch it. I wasn't risking it. So
yeah, that sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
Well, because also he's handing it off to you too, right? Like the extension. Yeah. That's kind of a cool vantage point, though, at least to really see what makes his fastball so unique. Even just, I know it's not the same as catching him off a mound or being in the box, but I imagine just that angle, even just playing catch with him, you probably had a different appreciation for just how unique his release is, right?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like, when you play catch with anybody, you always find something, whether it's one pitch or just how he's releasing the ball. It's always ooh, that's funky. Like that's difficult to catch. Like that's what makes this guy really good, So those things are always cool to see just from a pitcher perspective for sure.
Is there another Red Sox pitcher that you've played catch with where you're like, I don't want to do that anymore. This stuff is too weird.
I mean, everybody's stuff is really good at our level. So nothing's too fun to play catch with. Some guys, don't throw the ball as hard during catch play. And then usually when it gets to spinning stuff, I don't like catching any of that stuff anyways, just because they'll be eating me up with it, just because the shapes are really good. So usually have one of the bullpen guys step in or one of the pitching coaches step in and catch those and help them out with that stuff.
Perfect.
I'd need to be dressed like a hockey goalie to play catch with Luis Perales at 70%.
Yeah.
I just saw him in the fall league, dude. He was sitting 99 with like 18 vert from like a 5.96 release. Like, I know you didn't get to see a ton of him this year, obviously, because he's coming back from TJ, but have you been able to see Perales throw much? I mean, obviously you guys played together, I'd imagine, the year before. His stuff, I still feel like is underrated. Obviously that happens when you're out for a year plus, but it's got to be some of the most outrageous stuff in the minor leagues too.
100%. Yeah. I mean, my first full season, I was in Greenville with him for forever. And I mean, just seeing how he went out, I think in like his third outing, he had one outing that was like 4 innings, 9 punchies, like 20 some swinging whiffs. And I was like, dude, this guy's stuff is outrageous. I mean, he could go up there and throw just a fastball in the splitter and he'd be completely fine. Those are the only pitches he really needs, but all the other stuff just protects everything else a little bit more, which is really cool to see for sure.
My last question for you, along this journey, right through college, through the minor leagues, getting speed run, then debuting in September, then all the way into the playoffs, I want to stick on some of those outrageous moments. And it doesn't necessarily have to be on the Red Sox. You can even exclude Red Sox so you're not, discluding any of your own guys, but just along the way, who have been some players or tools of those players where you thought to yourself, holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, anytime Crochet throws, you see him throw, and it's like, damn, like this guy's really good. Obviously, you see how Bregman and Story work ABs, take certain pitches. It's insane. Obviously, you see Rafaela jumping all over the place in the outfield, making insane plays, diving, jumping up the wall, and somehow catching a ball that nobody should ever catch. So all those things are crazy to see. And you see certain guys on other teams as you're playing them that you grow up watching, and it's like, dang, dude, like I never imagined playing against these guys. And then probably the biggest one for me is watching Aroldis Chapman go out there every single time. Grew up loving watching him. He's my favorite player for a long time. Have a fat head of him in my childhood room when he was a rookie on the Reds. So I love seeing him go out there, and then obviously his whole entire intro when he comes in at Fenway is insane.
The rotational force that he creates is just watching him throw a bullpen. We were at PNC, and you can just, the way it's set up there, you can just pretty much stand and look right down at it. And just looking at I've said this, I would love to see him with a baseball bat just take an A+ hack and just see if he connects, like how far he could hit it. Because it's that same coil. And I want to see him just unleash and see how hard he could hit the ball. I think he's one of the most insane athletes in the history of baseball. Is that like crazy to say from what you've seen?
No, not at all. I mean, it's a testament to how hard he works. Every single day he's grinding his butt off. So it's most of the time I don't even see him much at the field before the game, just because he's jumping from one thing to the next, getting his massage, getting stem done, getting the workout in, getting his cardio in. Like, he's a freak from that standpoint. And obviously, he's 37, throwing 102, 103, whatever it is freakish. So, seeing that and then obviously putting the work behind it is like, okay, there's a reason why this guy is so good.
I just don't know. I was just going to say, I don't know when he's going to stop, because with him, he doesn't look like a human being. So why should we say that Father Time is going to affect him like the rest of us?
There's no telling when he's going to stop.
When you're built like a cyborg, You should say, oh, as soon as you get older, he should be older now. Like he should be throwing 102, but he is. There's just some guys who are just different. So, Arm, I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm glad to hear that Early backed it up. Like he truly is one of the best athletes we've ever seen in the history of this game.
100%.
We need him to get in the Derby, just celebrity swing, just
One
see
time.
what happens. He might whiff. I don't care. Just give him a few like A+ers. The last one for me, Connelly, is your experience at West Point, and just being able to get your feet wet playing college baseball there. Like, how much did that help you in terms of just the way that you go about your business, whether it was making the transfer over to Virginia and then getting into pro baseball and then making the adjustment to the big leagues? Like what kind of role and influence did Army play in your development as not only a player but a human being?
Yeah, I feel like the group that I came into West Point with, my class and then all the older guys, were great. There were a lot of guys that helped me out along the way. That's a tough place to navigate by yourself, so you got to really lean on all the guys around you, and that just helps build the brotherhood that they're trying to build there. And I had Jim Foster as my coach, and he was super big about paying attention to details. Very, very intense guy, very strict guy about how the game's supposed to be played and what you need to do to prepare for it. So I feel like just having that attention to detail throughout the whole time there, along with all the discipline that I'm learning that I learned there, just through the school aspect, through the military aspect, was insane. And I think that just helped me, set me up for success a little bit more.
Well, this interview was awesome, and now I got to root for the guy, like hard.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch him pitch against my team and be like, well, that dude's awesome. What am I supposed to do? And, of course, he's probably going to carve us. Thanks so much, man, for coming on. This is great.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me. It was amazing.